Hey, good morning to you.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again this morning on Saturday.
9:30 in the morning and 98.9 and 10:70 a.m. WINA. So today, Vitality Now, we're going to actually give you some real good tips. We've been talking about get rid of the sugar and get rid of those refined foods and get out there and exercise. And today, let's talk about some real bullet points.
Hey, you took
Some
my
real
lines.
things.
I was
I
going to talk.
did?
Yes.
Well, you didn't tell me that. What was your line? Go ahead and do it anyway.
So what I want to say is I have sympathy for people who have a hard time stopping to eat things they shouldn't be eating. And, we talk a lot about eating whole food, eating good food, eating clean food, clean meats and all that. And not everybody, some people may try to do that, but maybe they don't have the support or they just don't have the discipline or they have addictions. So I know that you were talking about the differences between addictions, cravings, and hunger. And I know for me, I've had some addictions, and I know it's what I need to do to get off my addictions. I just need to go cold turkey. That's how I am,
Yeah.
whether it's coffee or chocolate or sugar or whatever. It's just, I have a hard time monitoring myself and saying, oh, just have a little bite tonight. I can't do that. My mother does that. She's really good.
Ooh,
Tiny little
yeah.
bite of dark chocolate. She's
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah.
I can't open up that wrapper. I'm like, So, maybe, helping people understand that how addictive certain foods are, and that there is a connection to the brain and some chemistry that goes on. And it's understandable for some people how challenging it can be. It's like they smell those french fries. Some people are addicted to those french fries. And there is that great movie that we saw, that documentary that people can get, is Super Size Me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Probably about 5, maybe 10 years old. Morgan, why am I forgetting his name? Morgan. Yeah, Morgan. Morgan. Look up Morgan. It's funny, I'm thinking of
look it
Morgan
up while you-
Stanley. Morgan Stanley, who's a local home builder.
I was thinking of Morgan Freeman, that great
I know, I was
actor,
thinking of
too.
Morgan. Anyway, Morgan, you look up that.
I'll look it up
I'm
while
going to
you
talk
chat
about the
over that.
differences between addictions, cravings, and hunger. So let's go with the easy one, hunger. It is very normal for us to be hungry. There's actually a hormonal cascade that's released. This is all brain stuff. It's all brain-based stuff, okay? So as humans, as animals, we have to have calories coming in. We must have calories coming in. And basically there's three types of foods. You're either eating a carbohydrate, you're eating something called fat, or you're eating protein. Now here's an interesting thing. With protein, what the body does is it's able to build muscle, it's able to build tissue, brain cells from protein. And protein will actually break down into amino acids. And what's interesting to know, things like tyrosine and L-lysine and things like that are amino acids. Some of them are non-essential, meaning that you can live with them, you can live without them, and your body can create them. And some of those amino acids are essential amino acids, meaning that you must get them from your diet, meaning that your body cannot create those, it cannot invent those, it can't build them from scratch. You have to have them from your diet. So with proteins are essential, must have, okay? Now, with fats, there are also essential fatty acids. Essential, there's that word again. Essential means you have to get them from your diet. You must eat fat, one form or the other, whether it's animal fat or fat from plant sources. You have to have these essential fatty acids. Very important. And a lot of you have probably heard about how important omega-3s are and other essential fatty acids. Very important. There's omega-3, omega-6, omega-9. There's a lot of omegas, but those threes are, all of these are critically important. The correct ratio between 3s, 6s, and 9s is what's critically important. So what I thought was interesting, and I heard this recently, I thought, wow, I heard this on a TED Talk. Phenomenal talk. But what the speaker was talking about is that there's essential proteins in essential amino acids. There's essential fatty acids, so we get those from fat. But she pointed out that there are no essential carbohydrates. There's no essential carbohydrates.
Yeah.
It is not essential to get carbohydrates. What's really, really neat, and this is more of a brain story, more of a liver story, is that the body can take a protein, like say from a steak or any other source of protein, like maybe tofu, since you're the vegetarian, or an egg. Okay, we got a vegetarian here, so we got to speak to the vegetarians and our meat eaters as well. And with these types of foods, you must have those. But you can eat an egg, and if your body needs it, if it needs the glucose from that, it literally will take that protein and it'll break it down into glucose. It'll take a protein and break it down into sugar, which glucose is the medium of exchange for the blood. It can take fat. It can take a steak or the fat from the steak, literally, and it takes a lot longer, but it can take that fat and it can convert it into glucose as well. It also derives essential fatty acids from it. You get the amino acid from the protein, etc. But the whole thing about, oh, I gotta have my carbs is not true. Okay, we can get carbs from a lot of sources, and carbs get such a bad rap. But when you eat an apple, that's carbs. It's almost 100% carbs. Broccoli, the salad that you eat, those are all carbohydrates. The difference with those carbohydrates is they are not refined. They're not refined. So you really want to aim towards whole foods, things that you can grow in the garden, things that you can hunt, or you can, buy it at the grocery store. You can get that.
Also, like biting into an apple, it's got all the fiber and all that, so that slows down that glycemic index. Is that what that's related to, right?
The glycemic index, perfect. The glycemic index is an index or a measurement of how fast a food is broken down into glucose, or how fast is broken down into sugars. So some foods, like say a steak, has a very low glycemic index, meaning that it will eventually break down into sugar, but it takes a long time for the body to chew through that and convert it into energy that we can use. Certain proteins, very, not quite as long, but a long time to break down. Takes more steps.
Yeah.
Carbohydrates, like an apple, that'll break down pretty fast. Mango, a bit faster. Sweet potato, a little bit faster. White potato, faster than sugar itself. So sugar breaks down into glucose fast, but a white potato, bread, and now look at this, it's not only white bread, it's also whole wheat bread, Ezekiel bread. Now those breads are better than Wonder Bread. We can probably figure that out because Wonder Bread is extremely refined. Thank you. But breads have a higher glycemic index than sugar itself. It breaks down into sugar itself. There's a great book I want you guys to get, or at least look up. And if you do Audible, that's a great thing through Amazon.com. I listen to my books. But it's a book written by a cardiologist, Dr. Davis. And Dr. Davis writes a book called Wheat Belly. Wheat Belly, awesome title. But Dr. Davis talks about, and never forget this statistic, he says 2 slices of whole wheat bread breaks down into sugar faster than 2 tablespoons of sugar itself. I will never forget that. So when you're having a ham sandwich with cheese, or put in some lettuce or whatever, you're having 2 slices of bread. You realize you're having a lot of sugar with that too. And I tell my patients, it's not what's on your plate that counts. It's what your body does with what's on your plate. And it's taken that even the good whole food, whole grain bread that your doctor tells you is so good, it breaks that down into sugar. You're eating a sugary food. Now, it's coming along with protein, it's coming along with fat and all that, so it's better than just 2 slices of toast. But, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, doctors are recommending that because of all the fiber. And the reason we need to add so much fiber, try to go out of our way to add fiber, is because we're not eating enough of roughage, which is fruits and vegetables, raw or cooked.
Totally.
But I wanted to give you Morgan Spurlock.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
he's
you.
the director and producer of that. And
yes.
he did
Super Size Me.
Super Size Me, and he won some awards on that. It's a great documentary, and it's actually, speaking of books, it's been turned into a comic book. So, if,
really, Oh, that should be fun. So
I
get it to your
seen
kids.
that, but I think it's important.
Let's talk about the premise of that real quick, and then I'm going to get back to addictions, cravings, and hunger. Okay. The premise of Morgan Spurlock's is he wanted to do an experiment. He's a scientific thinker, and he wanted to do an experiment. He was wondering that how bad fast foods were. Now, he picked McDonald's, probably because it's more well-known or whatever, and he set up some rules for himself. You remember that? He had to have 3 square meals a day. So
he
breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Anything other than McDonald's.
He could order off of the McDonald's menu. I think he could order anything off of the menu, didn't he? Didn't he
I think
also
he had to have a drink.
He had to have a drink, so a soda or a shake or something like that, fries, burger, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he had to eat at McDonald's, breakfast, lunch, dinner. What was interesting, and if he wanted a snack, had to be a McDonald's, right? So breakfast, lunch, dinner, and he did that for a month, and he interviewed doctors. He interviewed doctors, like I think a cardiologist, maybe his
examined him,
PCP.
too.
He
Yeah.
interviewed them and they examined him, and he kind of asked them questions like, "Well, I'm going to do this thing. What do you think? What do you? I mean, do you think it will affect my health? Will it make my cholesterol, triglycerides go up? Do you
Do I
think?
need to be worried about
Do I need to be worried about it? What do you think?" And the doctors ran blood and they ran, cardiograms. They did a detailed workup on him. Every one of them said, "No, no, it's not going to have any
You're
effect.
so healthy.
You're so healthy.
You're going to be fine. You'll bounce back."
Basically, that diet really doesn't have anything to do with your health. They just didn't believe it. They said, well, it might bump your cholesterol up a little bit because those foods are high in cholesterol, but
Gain some weight, a little bit of weight.
shouldn't have any effect whatsoever.
Right.
I think it was. It has been a long time since we watched that, but I think it was like a week. Wasn't it a week into it? He started getting really sick. I don't remember exactly how many pounds he ended up losing or gaining, but wasn't it?
It was, yeah, his doctors were really
Astronomical.
concerned. They were trying to
gained-
discourage him from trying to get him to stop the diet because
Yeah.
his health was declining.
He gained some serious amount of
incredibly
weight. He
rapidly.
wasn't sleeping. He was having constipation, and he vomited a couple. You guys got to watch. You got to watch the show. It is
Yeah.
mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Now he points out at the end, like, well, okay, well, who's really going to go into McDonald's 3 times a day and eat all their meals and fast food all the time? And probably few of you who are listening to this actually do that. But I think his point was he was trying to extrapolate. Like, well, what would happen? He only did it for 30 days, and his doctors at the end, the cardiologist, the doctors were just practically begging him, like, Morgan, you have got to stop this. You must stop. You're killing yourself. And they're scratching their head like, oh my God, I just never had any idea that this level of fast food could really cause this much damage. And I think his point, or at least this is what I take, is that if you extrapolated that, eating crappy over a long period of time is going to have the same effects, but it's going to go over it's not going to be as drastic and obvious. And that's the problem. I was talking to a patient earlier today. He goes, man, when I was wrestling in high school, I was what did he say? I was $165. I was 165 pounds, and I was trying really hard to get up, to gain some weight. I was trying to get over that, and he goes, now I'm 265. And this is, 40 years later, and it's just like this has just been a slow demise of eating the wrong food over a long period of time. Gain a pound here, 3 pounds there. Gained weight. He gained 100 pounds, and of course he gained a lot of conditions along with that. So now he's like, and now I'm trying to get under 265.
Right.
I'm trying to
So, yeah,
stay at 260. He's 100 pounds overweight. So back to this discussion, if I could. We're talking about hunger. Very, very normal for you to feel hungry. It is normal for you to feel hungry. As the brain starts detecting a decrease in the glucose, a decrease in the energy, it starts to worry. This is a survival mechanism. So a hormone is released from the stomach, actually called ghrelin. And ghrelin is basically your hunger hormone. It's like, I'm hungry. Let's get some energy down here. You need to go chase down some food, or in our case, go to the grocery store.
I was remembering that from the movie from Super Size Me. Morgan talked about like, oh my gosh, I'm like craving my next meal. Like, when do I get to go back and get my next meal?
Oh, very,
and
very
then,
much.
Yeah, and then he was talking about all the that they add sugar to the French fries, and that they intentionally have all these additives that are quote secret ingredients that they don't reveal, on their website because. They are addictive. So it's like people are like, oh, I'm craving these French fries. And it's because there's chemicals actually that they include in their ingredients that they
Well, you just
kind of
went to the next thing. So addictions and cravings versus hunger. Hunger, totally normal physio. No, not sorry. That's perfect. Great segue. But yeah, hunger, totally normal. Addictions on the other side of things, literally like heroin, alcohol, and even pharmaceuticals. People can become addicted, and what that means is there's actual brain chemistry that's happening. The foods, the medications, the drugs that we're taking in can lead to addictions. So like you talked about with sugar, do you care to share a little bit more about that? For you, it's an on and off switch. It's not like this volume knob here where just a little bit is kind of fine. You either need to be off or you're going to get on.
Right.
And I find that with things too. Sometimes they can become addicted to even caffeine. And Those are actual brain neurotransmitters that are actually causing neurotransmitter and brain changes where the brain has to have it, or you can get some serious symptoms. And an example for me is I'm a 1 or maybe a 2 cup of coffee drinker a day, and if I miss a day of coffee just because I'm busy or forget or the weekend or whatever, I'm out of my regular zone, then I'll get a headache. And it's a low-grade headache, and I know maybe some of you have experienced that as well. And the reason I know it's an addiction is because I have a cup of coffee and bam, it goes away. Well, that's an addiction. So that's just caffeine. There's actually been a lot of good studies on caffeine, isn't there?
Right.
Yeah. So we need to.
Sometimes somebody just is low blood sugar and they need to have something because
Mhm.
I know a lot of people. They've like, oh, I hardly eat at all. I only eat once a day, and like those people are starving themselves all day, and that's probably a whole other topic.
Yeah.
Conversation is how some people say I really don't eat that much, and it's like, well, when I do eat, they're trying to make up for the whole day. They've been so famished all day that suddenly they're eating whatever's in front of them, and maybe not making the best food choices they would have if they weren't so hungry in that moment.
Very true. By the way, so we talked about how Supersize Me, he had to eat 3 square meals. And I want to talk about that whole
Square
myth,
meal.
I guess, or the whole square meals, the 3
Food
meals,
pyramid
breakfast,
and all
lunch,
that.
dinner, and all that. One of the things, one of the keys, one of the tips, one of the points that we try to hammer home with our patients is eating on a regular basis, even snacking. Listen, as long as you are eating good human food, right? So nuts, good meats, vegetables, coconut, things like that, eggs you brought up, proteins and fats. As long as you're getting your veggies, your fruits, your nuts, and your fats, then you're eating the right foods, and they're prepared in an appropriate way. And we're going to talk about slow food as well. You can eat. This is what I tell my patients. You can eat as much as you want. In fact, for most of my patients who are trying to lose weight, the worst way to lose weight is to skip a meal. The worst way, especially breakfast. You've already been fasting 8, 10, 12 hours. The reason they call it breakfast is you're supposed to break the fast. You got to break the fast or all of this cascade of hormones begins to be released. If you keep doing that on a continuous basis, what happens is an area in the brain called the hypothalamus starts recognizing, I'm not getting enough sugar, I'm going into a starvation mode, there must be famine out there right now, I better slow my system down. And the hypothalamus sends a message to the thyroid. The thyroid is told to turn the metabolism down, which means you're going to burn your fuels, whatever little fuels you get. You're going to burn them a lot slower because we're in famine right now.
All right, better store everything that goes in.
Exactly.
I'm going into hibernation.
You eat anything. You could eat a sugar cube, and the body, you know what? It can turn that into fat. It'll turn it right into fat. It'll take those sugars, turn it into fat. It'll do whatever it wants because it's going into
what it needs to.
It's going into fight or flight. It's about I got to survive. So it will start saving up foods, and it turns it into fat, called an adipose
just
tissue.
Just like a squirrel.
So for those of you who are listening, if you've got a weight issue or you really want to lose weight, start eating good whole foods regularly. I teach my patients 5 to 6 times a day.
Graze
and I'm not
like
talking
a cow.
about exactly graze. How about like a gazelle?
Yeah, okay.
Graze
That
like
sounds
a
better.
gazelle. Nobody wants to be like a cow, right?
Right.
So we want to graze like a gazelle. We're not set up like lions. Now lions are set up to eat, to feast or famine. I mean, and when the feast is there, they got to eat it all. So they gorge, huge amounts. But then they're designed to lay. Then they kind of lay around. They do a lot of laying around, and they're conserving their energy. Then they can go days and sometimes longer without any food. But they're set up that way. We're not lions, so we have to graze more like gazelles. We have to be grazing all day long. So what I do first thing in the morning, I'm usually up around 4:30 in the morning. I do my study and do my affirmation prayers and things like that in the morning. And first thing I do is I get a little snack, and it might be, usually it's an apple with some almond butter. I always like to have something with protein or fat. So apple, almond butter. Today at lunch I have a carrot with almond butter. I like hummus, something like that. Get some protein in there. So in the morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I get something, little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a teaspoon or 2 of almond butter and a couple slices of apples. Okay. a couple slices of
You
apple.
have patients have it by their bedside because some people, they rise later because of their, work, or they didn't sleep that great and they don't want to get up yet. But not having, having
Yeah.
an excuseless environment
Yeah,
is
yeah.
to have like a few
Put
little.
like a bag of walnuts
A
or
little jar.
almonds or something like that. You just need it.
Bedside.
All you need is like a handful. It's
Yeah.
not a lot.
Yeah.
You put that in the body, and the body brain immediately goes, oh, okay.
We're not in starvation.
We're good. I'm not
Yeah.
in starvation. This is cool. Food's
Yeah.
coming in. Everything's good. So for me, at 6 o'clock, a little bit before, we head to the gym, do a nice big workout. Then my wonderful wife here makes an amazing breakfast. It's usually eggs, and we had some salmon the other day, and I usually have some greens in there as well. And then I'm off to work. Mid-morning, I'll have a little snack. It might be, again, a handful or two of almonds, maybe a protein bar. At lunch, have a nice little lunch. Today in the lunch box, I have a salad with a can of salmon. I have, let's see if I can remember it. I have a
You should have a big old carrot and an apple.
I have a big old carrot in there.
Some nuts.
I have some nuts, and there's something else.
Salad.
Anyway, I have those protein balls that you
Oh,
make.
right,
Oh, yeah, I
yeah.
love those things.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a snack midday today, and then dinner, and I might even have a little bowl of cherries at nighttime. A little bit. Okay, sometimes a lot.
Yeah,
bit.
that's one of his addictions, people. I'm
Yeah,
just telling you,
okay, bowl of
trying to get
cherries.
him to kick that.
Hey, it could be better,
Might
right?
help
My
you with
addiction
your
used to be
sleep.
Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
That's true. It's a good substitute,
right.
and that's a good way
All
to help people
Yeah.
kind of
Find some
wean off of
substitutions.
something, right?
Substitutions.
So, yeah, my husband used to really enjoy his Ben and Jerry's, and
Mm-hmm.
he substituted that with you call it the home run, but
Yeah, I do. I have a bowl of cherries. I have usually 2 scoops of either peanut butter, almond butter, and then I'll put some yogurt in there.
yeah, some
yeah.
the Greek yogurt.
Yeah, Greek
so-
yogurt. You want to get the high fat, high protein. High fat. I did say that. Get some good fat and good stuff. Okay?
I know we're running out of time, but I know I wanted to share some of the resources that I've come across, and we have a lot of recipes that people can have access to, right? On your Surviving Dr. Prax's
Yeah, you can
metabolic.
go on Facebook.
Facebook,
Surviving
yeah.
Dr. Prax's Metabolic Repair Program.
Yeah, that's
Surviving
exactly what
Dr.
that
yeah.
is. People's metabolism changes on that diet, and there's all kinds of recipes available for easy access.
Check out my YouTube site as well. We got to see if we
Your
can
YouTube
put
channel,
something down below.
yeah.
On this
What is that
podcast and
one?
on my website, we'll have access to my YouTube channel. I've got a gazillion videos. And
Is it Dr.
tips like
Prax's
this.
YouTube? What is it called?
I think you can just look up Dr. Prax, or probably my name, Dr. Brian Prax, and you'll find my YouTube channel.
And yeah, I wanted to give this resource if you're somebody who doesn't like to cook, or you're only 1 or 2 people at your house, and it seems like a lot of effort. 2 comments on that. One is when you do cook, make enough where you can freeze it for another meal 3 days away, or leftovers for lunch. So we do that a lot. We'll make our intentional meal in the evening, and then we make extra so that everybody can pack it in their lunches the next day real easily. But there's another resource that I have. It's factor75.com, and they actually will send you meals that they make fresh. It's organic, grass-fed, gluten-free, everything like that, and you can pick your dietary restrictions, and they'll ship it to your house every week.
Hey, Dr. J, our producer's looking at us with closed eyes. We
Oh,
got to wrap
all
up.
right.
Hey, guys, we're having so much fun. Send your comments and messages in. Give us a call here at the radio station. Check out our podcast, our YouTube, my Facebook. Check
And
out my
email us if you
website.
have questions.
And email us if you have any questions. We got to go. We'll see
Thanks
you
for
next
joining
week.
us.
Bye.